So guys, welcome to another video. Today we're going to be looking at the SEGA Master System 2. One of the big problems, or not problems, but kind of limitations of the SEGA Master System 2 is that unlike its predecessor, it came with RF only. So you only had RF out. There are mainland European versions sold in France and Germany, I believe, that just had had other options. I think it was either composite out or they actually had RGB SCART here. So yeah, but in the UK and Ireland you only really got RF out on these PAL models. So we have a few of these to mod. This one here is a Sonic the Hedgehog onboard game, and the reason you can tell that is the first giveaway is the size of the EEPROM here. If we compare that to this guy, which is an Alex the Kid, you'll notice that the EEPROM is a lot smaller. Now this is a socketed version of the, I've installed sockets for all the ICs, even though I've kind of had to hack two different types of socket on here. But yeah, you can see that this, when you compare it to the other chips, it's a lot smaller here. Another giveaway is if we look at the video encoder, the onboard video encoder. This one uses a surface mount. I believe this is the same video encoder that's in the SEGA Mega Drive 2. Could be wrong about that, I'll have to actually look that up. But it's a surface mount, whereas again if we look back at the original one, it's the same Sony video encoder that we see on the Mega Drive 1. Again, this is socketed. So they're the two big giveaways to kind of tell you which board is which. Otherwise, they're very, very similar. What I also notice is on Master Systems in general, I haven't seen any of these capacitors leaking, but they're not a known brand capacitor. When you look at a Mega Drive, or even I'd imagine a SEGA Master System Model 1, you'll find Rubicon capacitors, and they're a good, decent brand of capacitor, whereas these guys, I'm not too sure about. So the eagle-eyed amongst you may notice that this chip here, the memory controller, is actually the wrong way around. But don't worry, I flip it around later on. So the idea with these today is for this guy here, for the Sonic the Hedgehog version, I'm going to remove the onboard video encoder. I'm going to remove a couple of the passives here, resistors and capacitors. I'm going to remove the RF box, and we're going to install an RGB bypass, which will give us RGB out over SCART. We're going to use the SEGA Mega Drive 2 DIN, which is a mini DIN 9 for our output. And we're also going to use one of Voultar's creations. We're going to use his RGB Bypass Board. Now, out of the box, his RGB Bypass Board is designed for Mega Drives, so we're going to have to tweak some of the resistor values, remove some resistors from his board, and use some through-hole that I'll place in line with a little bit of heat shrink on the RGB lines. So that's what we'll do to this one. In that scenario, we'll be able to pull RGB off some of the points here on the actual PCB where we remove components. So on the next one, the Alex the Kid version, in order to get another console working, I've actually had to remove the video display processor here, I think it's IC9. Just move that capacitor and I'll be able to tell. Yeah, IC9, is it? Or CI19? No, IC5 rather, sorry, IC5, the VDP. It's this kind of strange looking package here. That's SEGA 35246. With this kind of weird kind of way of kind of short leg, long leg, short leg, long leg. does make it very easy to do a count if you're lifting pins or soldering onto the legs of these. But yeah, I had to remove that from this board to get another board working. So with that in mind, I have another Alex the Kid here that was sold as broken, and I'm going to remove that VDP and socket it in here. And this can act as a test system in the future. This one I'll just hold on to for parts, but it's basically, they're both Alex the Kid, as you can see from the mask ROM and from the video encoders. They have the same video encoders. One's ceramic, one's plastic. That's the only difference. So yeah, with this one it's going to be slightly different. Because I want a system I can use for testing, I'm leaving the video encoder in place, which means that I can test other Sony CXA1145P chips in this motherboard, because they're socketed. Same with the VDP. So what that means is that I'll actually mount our Voultar board on top here, our RGB Bypass board, have the wires coming out this side, and probably a little DIN connector somewhere here. So up first is the Sonic one. Reason for that is we have this surface mount video encoder, and that requires the hot air, and I think it's the only time I'll be using hot air today. So yeah, for working on these, for removing the components, hot air for the surface mount desoldering station for the through holes, kind of passes we're pulling off, the capacitors and resistors. The final one will be a lot easier, the Alex the Kid one, because I don't really need to desolder on that. I can just solder to the pins of the VDP, just pull my signals straight from there. But with this one, we're never going to use the RF, so we're removing it. I have my syringe of Chip Quick. This is SMD 291NL. It's actually the same stuff. You've probably seen Gadget and others use them in the little kind of tubes. I don't have the steadiest hands in the world, so I like to use the syringe because it means I can apply it exactly where I need it. I don't know, in my mind as well, it lasts a little bit longer. Flux itself has a shelf life, but I've never really run into any problems. I really don't like liquid flux, the flux in the pens. That stuff is just, anytime I use it, I always find it very irritating. So I just have to get something to place under this board, because as you can imagine, the heat is going to get quite hot. As many of you may know, I used to live in Dundee, so for a while. So yeah, that's just top of a biscuit tin, does the job. Actually, might get an alternative to this. I'm quite fond of this. I picked it up on the day I left Scotland, so silly sentimental things, a fucking biscuit tin. But anyways, so yeah, we have that hot air going. Okay, so my flow is at just around 5. I'm going to put my temperature to about 320. Now it's winter in Ireland, so what I should really have done is maybe heat this up with at 100 degrees just to warm up the board. The smoke you're seeing is probably a bit of that white stuff, but mostly just flux. You don't have to use flux, a lot of people don't. I like to. Again, I should really have a window open here or something. I will once I get this chip off. There we go. And it's off. So I'm just going to place that on something metal. So if I bring this guy in, here's one I prepared earlier. So this is a Sonic the Hedgehog version of the console. You can see Voultar's board here, and I have my DIN connected there. So what I want to do is I want to just check to see what components I removed. from this one, and just make a small list of those. Or 18. Because we're pulling audio off that. So cool. Let me fire up the desoldering station. Again, apologies for the noise. The desoldering station I'm going to set to, come on, I'm going to set it to 335, something like that. You don't want it too high on these boards. These are, I'd say they're like 3, maybe 4 layer. Yeah, there's not a lot going on there. 2 to 3 layer, I'd say. But yeah. So I'm going to move this one out of the way. And I'm going to bring in our Sonic the Hedgehog. So now you can get a better view of what needs to come off here. So a lot of these components are coming off. Sorry, doofus. Yeah, I was a doofus. So there's my list. Yep. So or 15, 17 and 13. So 15, 17, 13 are coming off. C27, I take it that these are capacitors, they're yellow, doesn't really matter. They're coming off anyway. C27, 28, 29. We skip this guy here, do we? We do. And we go for this guy, which is C31. And also, I'll just have to pull this guy out of the way. We're getting his friend down in here, hard to see, or 18. He's coming off. What I might do is start with C31. It can be a little confusing sometimes, but I believe this is C31 here. An annoying thing they do in the factory is when they put the components in, they bend the legs out. So sometimes I'll turn on the iron, because what I'll do is I'll come in here and I'll like lift, get in under there, and try and straighten them with a regular iron before I try and desolder it. Hold it there for a second, wiggle a little, not too much. There we go, that was cleared. Do the same here. Hold it there for a second. There we go, that should be out now. So let's see. Did I pull out the right component? I did, yeah. So the good thing about this is, once you have one component out, you can kind of easily count one direction or the other to the other number of components, because they're all in a row. Come on, there we go. Okay, so what's left to remove? The RF modulator. So we've got the 3 contacts here, should be easy. When it comes to these other ones though, there's the 3 anchor points. I'm going to use 2 irons. I'll hold like the soldering iron on one side and the desolderer on the other, and we'll just whip those off. With these, I think we should be okay, but I'm going to, it's no harm to introduce a small bit of solder to each one, just to get them flowing better. So, again, this bumping my heat up to 330 on the iron. I'm just going to hold, try and make as much contact with this pin as I can. There we go. I can see the old flux bubbling. It's a good sign. When you come in contact with that old flux in your iron, make sure you clean the tip of your iron, because that stuff's Heavy duty flux. Okay. So these will be easy. I won't need famous last words, but I shouldn't need too much heat. So I'm just going to wiggle a little. Yeah, that one kind of stiff. We'll see. Hold it there. 1, 2, 3. Wiggle. Now, just put my desoldering gun away for a second, and I'm going to check, can I move these? Yeah, I can move them a little. Yeah, they move. So, on to the anchor points. So, with these, my normal iron is at 330. This is going to be a two-handed affair. Board might start moving around, so I'm going to bring in my thing just to brace it a little. Get this one. Yeah, this is soaking up a lot of the heat now. So wait till it starts bubbling good. So these are for grounding, but they're also for a solid mechanical connection. Hence the copious amounts of ground plane. That should be okay. So, yeah, I got my pliers here. So I'm just going to check these. Yeah, they're turned. That's the problem. So when before they solder them, they kind of twist them. They kind of, it's the same. You see the same on Commodore 64s and stuff when they kind of grab them, twist them, and then they solder them. So I've got to turn them back. This one seems okay. Right, that should come out now. Famous last words. Is it? Yeah, there you go. Just popped right out. Didn't need to lever it at all. So as you can see, there's probably 0 damage there. They just soak up a lot of heat, that's all, the ground planes there. So, RF modulator. Don't need it. Goes in the bin. Now, with that said, I need to take a VDP from one of the other Master Systems to go in the socketed one. So I'm just going to leave those to the side, the sonic ones. Yeah, so this is my my test system that's fully socketed, and I want to put a VDP in here, and this can act as like my test system for testing ICs, iLogs, Z80s, things like that. So yeah, put this one to the side. Here's another Alex the Kid. I'm not a fan of the Alex the Kid game. I think it's a terrible game. I think it has cultural references in it that you'll probably get if you're from Japan or Asia, but without the relevance of those cultural references, it's not a great game. So we're going to take the VDP from this one. So just check my iron. And before I pull the VDP from this, I don't want to be destructive, like, because this board, should I find another VDP, I can always put it on here and we have a fully working one. But for now, this is a spares board, you know. Some people might be horrified by that a fully working Master System would be for spares, but I'm more interested in using it to maintain other ones. So I'll just clean my tip a little. Okay, now I've flowed that, so you can probably see it in the camera there, so even that it's shinier than all the other ones around it. So again, we're just going to come in, leave it, 1, 2, 3, wiggle, and there we go. I can get my tweezers and just kind of push them. Make sure they're all moving freely. All seem to be moving freely. You'll see it'll even just fall out once I kind of poke them all, if I've done all of them correctly. Yeah, it wants to fall out already. That's okay. Okay, so that one needs another thing. That's fine, that's fine, that's that one. No, that needs another go. Yeah, that one there. So down the line again, just make sure I've got the right one. Oh no, it just gave up. It was just the tiniest bit of solder, so that should already be kind of falling out. There we go. Out. So you're not always going to have it that easy taking out ICs like that, especially these kind of ones with that kind of pattern and the kind of that kind of pattern of dual in, well, what's that, quad inline, double dual inline, I don't know, it's unusual anyway, you have to give it that. Okay, so that's destined for this bad boy, but as you can see we've quite a strange socket set up on this. So will it go in there without giving too much of a fight? Hopefully. Oop, are we in? I believe we're in. Nice. So I'm just going to inspect the legs. Make sure they're all making contact. That's crazy. Because I've been waiting for that other board to arrive so I could install the VDP, the SEGA 3155246. And I didn't know if my socket idea would work. And I couldn't take the VDP off the other board because, as I was saying before, heat cycling on these, constant rework. These boards aren't great for temperature. They're not the most well-built boards. This is a cost-reduced version of the SEGA Master System 1. Hence, cheaper capacitors, less components, cut down in size. Probably not a great board. So, yeah. I'm surprised that actually went in as good as it did. Okay, so now we're on to the soldering, and I'm going to break out some wiring diagrams, and I'm also going to show you the little boards you got a glimpse of earlier from Voultar that we're going to be using. Yeah, again, these boards were designed to be used with SEGA Mega Drives, so we'll have a little bit of work to do to get them working with our system. But yeah, VDP in, great stuff. Yeah, we've got to clean up where we removed that chip. One thing I like to do is I like to cut off a tiny bit of braid. I don't like holding the roll in my hand and that, because that entire spindle of braid then becomes a conductor for the heat, whereas when you put a tiny bit on this, you can you have more control, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, we're going to clean this up. I may put down like a little bit of fresh flux on that as well, just to make our lives easier. And as I wait for my iron to get to temperature, because it was in sleep mode again. Yeah. It's a good iron. It's just that sleep mode feature. I guess as a hobbyist, it's fine, but you know, if you were using this all day, every day, that would become, and it just becomes annoying after some time that it goes to sleep like that. So, alright. Bit of fresh flux there. And we're just going to wick up the old solder and just kind of clean it up. It looks a bit, even though there's no chip going back on here, I'll know it's like that inside. Come on. Maybe you should go up with the temperature. Yeah, bad angle. Wicking like this, you'll know when you come across a ground, because it'll just want to stick. That's why you kind of have to go slow. Oh, come on. There we go. Just wait for it to get up to temperature before I start moving. Again, I'm not pushing down here, I'm just kind of pulling one direction with the tweezers and just letting the iron rest on top. If you're over ground, just hold there longer. Try not to melt capacitors. There we go, that's fine, that's wicked. So now I'm going to get a cotton swab and some alcohol, and we'll clean that up. You can still see it's coming up pretty yellow. A lot of flux there. Okay, and I'm just going to rub over these a little bit. We solder into most of these points, so get them as clean as we can. I'll get a fresh cotton bud then, and I'm cleaning the area around the RF modulator, because we're going to be sticking Voultar's board into this location. So here's some of Voultar's boards. I actually won't be using all these today. And if you look at this one in particular, I've already removed these resistors I talked about earlier. I'll show you them on a normal board. So the resistor values, you can see he's used 2. So I only removed these first 3 here on the R, G, and B lines. I scoped this before. I'm not going to do it now in this video. The retro gaming cables that I recommend and I use have 75 ohm resistors on the RGB lines already. So with that in mind, if we remove these and just put 100 ohm resistors on the wires that connect here, we should be good to go. We should be in spec. Yeah, so we're looking at, what was it, 0.8, in around 0.8 millivolts on the RGB lines at termination, at the point they reach the actual display, the SCART connector. That's what you're looking for there. So by placing 100 ohms, removing these and placing 100 ohm through-hole resistors kind of soldered to the wires, with neatly done with a nice bit of heat shrink, we can achieve that. So if I show you the one I made earlier, you can see what I've done. So you can see our RGB comes in here. Now, one mistake, or not really a mistake, it's just kind of not very neat, is I have them placed here in these heat shrink. And literally you can see red, green, blue. And the sink, I have a smaller resistor. I think I use like a 10 ohm resistor here on the sink line. That's just because I like using a resistor there. Just a current limiting resistor more than anything else. But these are actually attenuating the signal, the RGB signal, whereas that's just, a current limiter. So yeah, ideally what I should have done here is actually place these on the input to the board, so that our signal, I just have signal wires coming out here. I've also mounted, if you can see this round piece, I've mounted this in a weird way. Like, because the DIN, these are going over the board, that's not great. I should have just maybe, flipped it around. So on this guy, I'll have it like that. I'll mount it like that. I'll just get a bit of glue, super glue, because if you look at the bottom of this board, there's actually nothing on it. So it's just substrate with insulator. So it can sit there, and there's no contacts here. So yeah, it'll be perfect. So rather than mount it this way, I'm going to mount it that way. So yeah, let me get on with that. I'll get a bit of super glue and we'll get that in place. So I've Gorilla Glue here. As you can see, the top is all mangled, but that's okay. And I don't need much. I only need that's too much nearly. Now before that dries too much, you could use other glues. I use this stuff, Gorilla Glue, just because it's what I have, but it's essentially super glue. So, okay, so there we are. Twas as if it was made for this purpose, but yeah, that's Voultar. Makes good shit. So I'm just going to leave that now. Stop recording. I'll come back once that's set in 5 minutes. So give me a chance to have a cup of tea. So the first thing we need to do, guys, now that the glue has set and our little jewel here is in place, the Voultar board, what we need to do is we need to hook up power and ground. So this is voltage in from the AC adapter. Center is common, ground, and collector, by the way it says here, see, and output, which is our 5 volts. So I'm going to do white, I believe I'll do for 5 volts. So we don't need a really long wire. Something like that will do. We do like short runs. Try and keep our runs short. So a little white wire and a little black wire. So I probably have way too much wire here, but that's okay. I'd rather have too much than not enough. So I'm going to spin this around just to make it easier for me to kind of get... turn on the iron as well, I suppose. Easier to get those, and I'm going to pre-tin my wires as well. I'm going to bump up my heat to 340, 345, just because this guy, I want a tin, and it's going to suck up a lot of heat. So again, I'm just gonna put it there. Clean my tip maybe a little. Put it there. Yeah, this is going to take a lot of heat. there we go. Do the same to this. This should be a little bit easier. It's not pretty, but it'll do. So the white one should be a lot easier now. It'll be less inclined to soak up the heat. Why don't I just zoom in for you guys? Oh man, it's snowing out. Weird. So yeah, that isn't perfect, but it you know what? It's a solid connection. So again, see if I can get better light here for you guys. Move some stuff around. Conscious that my hand is casting a shadow. Okay, so we want it somewhere like that, nice and neat. So I'm going to heat it up, same as the last time. You can see the solder wants to move it there now. So there we go, that's a nice solid connection. Okay, that's nice. I can just push it down then. I get the desired effect. The same with ground. Nice. So they're nice short runs for power on ground. So if I was to go over here, so these I got off SLR Mod Shop UK. He was kind enough to provide these. So what I will do is, so RGB are the first ones we have to worry about. So I'm going to come back over here. So if we flip over between his image and this one, we're pretty much lined up. So if I go, you can see that R15, R17 and R13, green, blue, red. So here we are, green, blue, red on this side. So let's tin those areas. Oh yeah, and I need to go up because I don't want to touch the cart port, so I have to angle my iron upwards. Is my iron gone to sleep yet? No. This, I can see this via here is not in great shape, so I have to be quick. Don't want to stress it. It's not the end of the world. I could pull these signals from other points on the board, but it's just nice to be able to go off those. And indeed, one thing I'm going to do is just going to go back to my wiring diagram again from SLR Mod Shop, because I think I was actually using the wrong one. So if I go back here, schematics, wiring diagram, there we go. So yeah, so I'll just flick back over. So this is the one we were using, but as you can notice there, that's for the dip package one. So if I, where's my mouse cursor? If I go back, here's the one for the SMD video encoder board. So if you look there, we need to actually remove another resistor. So you can see this one here. So if I go back over, we need to remove R18. So that's no big deal. We have our desoldering station set up, and so R18 should be here. Because if we flip it over, we remove C13. We have R10, then R18. So remove that capacitor. R18 is right here. Okay, got it tinned a little bit more. Right, that'll do. I know that's quite hard to see in the light there, but you can kind of see it. I got some tinning there. So, yeah, we've got our sync line. The next we need is our audio line, which we're going to pull from C13 here, from the negative terminal of C13. So, our negative side of C13 might be more appropriate. Don't melt your cartridge port. Yep, that's good. So the reason I mounted it this way is because the DIMM is on this side of the board. That's what I want, you know, keep my runs short, even though it means I have to come across the top here with these, but I don't mind. I'm wondering, you know what, I'm going to try the low pass filter on this one, just because, you know, I didn't do it on the one I made earlier, so I'm going to, just so I can kind of compare and contrast. Because it's always a great idea to add another complication into the middle of something while you're working. So there we go. That jumper enables our low pass filter, so we'll turn that on. Why not? So I'm introducing the wire just like that. Okay, so that's nice and kind of secure. So it's like a, yeah, good solid. And then sync is literally coming down like that. I just literally left myself enough to get it there to keep the run as short as possible. So hold on, I'll get this kind of framed up. So literally, there's just enough wire to do sync. So give me a sec. There we go. That's our sync line. Nice and short. Okay, there we go. Green, blue. Got this nice short bit. There we go. So they look good. So now we just have to terminate them. So blue is first. blue is the first one to get our attention. If I can just manipulate the wire to look semi-decent. How's that? It's pretty good. Green. Nice. Okay, so Mr. Red, you're going to be a pain in the ass, aren't you? Yes, sir, I'm going to be a pain in the ass. Tweezer time, maybe? Can I get out with the tweezers? Yeah, that'll be alright. There we go. RGB. So what I need to do now is to make up my DIN connectors that are going to connect to this side. I was going to put the resistors for this in line here. It's just so much easier to do it this side. If I wanted to keep my run short. I don't know how that's going to affect in the long term Voultar's choice in video encoder IC, which I'll probably have to look up and put a link to or note to somewhere. But yeah, it's just easier to do it here. You know, I have a lot going on here wire-wise. It's just easier to do it there. So yeah, we have our RGB. So yeah, I'm just going to grab some DIN connectors and we'll move on to that. I can zoom out now as well. Just before I go on, the original lid to this, the kind of Alex the Kid socketed kind of test system, had a bit of rust here. So I took the lid off the RF shield we pulled off this board and put it on. I threw the other one out. Yeah, because I want to be able to test the video encoder here, so that's why the RF is staying. But with that said, I also need to find a place to mount the RGB board on this this console, that SEGA Master System. So I have another one of Voultar's boards here, and again I need to, because this one isn't one I prepared earlier as such, I need to just move that there. I need to remove the resistors from this one. Okay, so I managed to place some jumper wires over the gaps there to just basically 0 ohm resistors, I guess. I just want to double check how is it looking there. Well, that's okay. Yeah, they're fully wetted. It's kind of annoying. You can't just bridge those gaps like you would with these ones at the low pass filter where the pads are close together. They're just that much too far apart where it's a little bit hard to do that. So okay, what I need to do with this now is just move some crap out of the way, is just fix it to the top of the RF shield. So I'll zoom out. Okay. So we definitely want our power and ground coming in this side. And again, the wires for this one aren't going to be going to the same termination points, same points we did here, because we're going to leave the video encoder intact, so that we can test basically other video encoders to make sure that they're working either through RF or we can pull composite off or something like that. But the idea is I'm going to mount this on top of the RF box, have wires going for voltage, wires that will probably be on the underside of the board to tap RGB and sync and indeed audio directly from the VDP. So yeah, let me stick this on here. Again, I'm going to get a bit of glue. Just a dot of glue. I'll try not get any on my hands this time. So I'll work fairly fast. I'll just add loads. And I just want to power and ground close to the power and ground. Again, the entire bottom of this board's an insulator. I don't have to put tape or anything. There's no vias, there's no exposed traces on that side. I'm just trying to center it up though while I have it, while it's still plastic. Okay, so that's going to start to set real quick. So when I come back, we'll let this dry, and when I come back we'll finish on the other one. We'll make up the 2 DINs for both boards, but I'll wire this one last because it's slightly different. I'll show you the pinout for the VDP. We'll flip the board over, we'll get our wires hooked on there, so they'll possibly come around up here and then out to a DIN somewhere over here. Okay, so here's the Sonic console again, if it'll focus. So I have some mini DIN 9 connectors, and I have prepared one already. So pretty kind of self-explanatory. RGB and sync is the yellow. I also soldered on a yellow wire here to go to the ground plane at the back somewhere. We have 5 volts in white for the blanking signal, and black then is our audio. Trying to keep a similar as best I can, the same kind of color code, so if anyone ever comes in here to troubleshoot it, it would be kind of obvious. Maybe yellow is a bad choice for the ground, but it's kind of obvious. So I nearly put the ground on first. So with the ground, a good idea with ground is we're going to be attaching it here, somewhere here, on this kind of unique kind of outer plating. And with that, we need to kind of prep that area. And in order to give yourself the best chance, a fiberglass pen will do the job. So, that is not a fiberglass pen. Yeah. So you just want to kind of get rid of any oxidization here. So I don't need to go mad here. I just need to buff it up. So we're just going to kind of come in here, buff that area like so. You can see it's a little bit shinier than the area around it. That's fine. What I need then is a cotton bud and some alcohol, and you'll notice this is going to come up a little bit black now because we removed some of that. My iron's gone to sleep, so I'll wake it up. And this is a ground plane, so again, we're going to have to let the heat soak. So I'm just going to put this here. I'm going to bump the iron up to 360. I have a point there that I can use now, but I just want to kind of that as solid as I can. There we go. That's a nice point to solder onto. Just kind of move it around, keep it nice and molten. Give it a sec, give it a sec. 2, 3, 4, introduce the wire. That's a solid ground connection. So now we're grounded. I'll just move these out of the way. We have a nice ground there. So I'm going to do RGB next. And sync on that. So for this I need a 10 ohm and 3 100 ohms to go on here, and a bit of heat shrink. So I've actually pre-tinned all these, so what I'm going to do is RGB. I'm going to cut these. I need to strip these, so if I'm going to be attaching through-hole components to them, these sync. Because this wire here will have melted onto the bit I tinned, I'm going to come down a bit to cut it. So it'll be easier to strip. A little bit of heat shrink over it. Okay, so this rather kind of, I don't know, crazy looking stuff is basically we're ready to hook up RGB and ground, and we worry about 5 volts and the audio after that. So I've left quite a bit of the legs on here, but we don't actually need that much. So we're going to start with red, so I'll do that one first. Okay, so there we go, that's red. And green. So yeah, I'll be desoldering these and redoing them once I'm making it kind of permanent. So if you're doing this, like if you wanted to do this, be really perfect about it. These resistors with the heat shrink on them, they should be, so we've got 100 for each of these, and we've got a 10 ohm just current limiting on the sync line, but they should be on this end, on the input end of the board, not on the output. But it doesn't really matter, but if you wanted it to be like completely 100%, that's probably the best way to do it. I've had this problem with the other one. Sync. There we go. So that's our sync. So audio next. So audio is pretty easy. Just pull off the black wire. and audio. We're tapping audio from, again, I'll go over and show you. So as you can see there, C18 we're pulling audio from. Or is it C18? No, I'm completely wrong. Excuse me. We are pulling audio from here, which is where the electrolytic capacitor goes. So it's C13. Looks like an 18 there, but in real life it's this guy here, C13. So again, I don't have all that much space to play with here, so I have to kind of, if I go under the other wires, will that make sense? I think it will. Okay, that looks good. I know you guys can't see it, but it's on there fairly solid. And now I need 5 volts for the blanking signal. On the other board, I got it from the side of a capacitor here. This guy. So I'm just going to put a dab of solder there, and to get it started, I'll pull 5 volts from there. By right, you could pull it back from where you got the 5 volts there, but I'm going to get it from here. First bit of solder there. Just tune that quickly again. So there we go. That's our 5 volts. And what I need to do now is my test system. So my test system, this is like fairly solid now. I should be able to take it off by lifting the can as well, so it's kind of good that way. It feels kind of sticky there, so I'm just going to get the alcohol, a cotton swab. Okay, so I'm going to prep the solder pads here. So that's a little bit cleaner. So unlike the other one, for this guy, what we're going to do is we're going to be pulling RGB directly from the VDP. Because it's socketed, obviously I can't like lift pins. I still need to be able to test the Sony video recorder, the onboard one. But I don't want the SCART connection to be part of any of the filtering that's going on here for the Sony, because this is, you know, obviously that's why we pulled the components out in the other one. So all that stuff remains. We don't have to desolder anything, but what it does mean is we have to find the corresponding pins for RGB on the back of the VDP. So with that in mind, let's have a look at the pinout for the VDP. Okay, so this isn't a great image. It's it'll do though. So we're lucky in a sense that every second pin is basically, you know, long and short on the actual VDP. I'll just show you that real quick. I think it's obvious by now, but I'll show you. So yeah, if we look at the VDP, we have like short, long, short, long. So if when it comes to counting pins, it's like, yeah, it's quite easy. So if we look at pin 15, we have our audio. 27, 28, 29 is RGB, and then sync is on 30, ground on 32. So ground being on pin 32 on the kind of is a good one, because once we flip the board over, we'll be able to use our multimeter to locate ground. And that will tell us where everything else is. You were correct. It is this guy here. Oh, sorry, here. So that's our ground right there. So we've ground, YS, and then C-Sync is this one here. So with that said, let's get a yellow wire. And I've shortened the kind of exposed bit of this wire. There we go. That's a perfect connection. So blue is going to come in here. And just like that. Okay. So there's blue. So it's a funny kind of a setup. It's a funny kind of a setup considering it's just the fact that this is a double dual inline package. A D-dip package. Okay, so just when you feel like the wire getting hot and it's about to burn your hand, that's when you know you have it attached, I guess. You wouldn't have to use Captain tape for this, electrical tape would do, but it's just I have Captain tape at hand, so that's what I'm using. I don't want to stress those joints by manipulating them this way and having stuff go south on me. So okay, so that's done. We've just got to kind of terminate these off here. And what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to do the 100 ohm and 10 ohm resistors on this side of the board. So let me just kind of snip them. So you may be thinking, oh, I cut those too short. Well, that's because we've got to put on our resistors again. So again, I'm with my box of resistors. So yeah, power and ground. Now we're going to do the same. Oop, if I stop hitting the desk. We're going to just tin the center contact here. Should have turned the iron up actually. Ow! Hot thing's hot. So that's that done. Power and ground going to the board. So now what I need to do is I need to make up the final DIN. So for that, I actually have a handwritten kind of cheat sheet that I've done. Let's see if I can release it from underneath this crap over here. Okay. So, this is a crude childish drawing of the din. To the side. So when I'm doing the din, I like to do it like this. If that makes sense, because it kind of holds it in place. But we'll match it with the picture. So that's the in, that's like what's on the cable end, and this is this bit here that we're looking at, the back of the connector. So what we can do while we have it out is these plastic bits. They're for, you know, panel mounting it probably in the correct way. We're not going to do the correct way. We're just going to snip them off. It's not great for your flush cutters, this. I'll probably have to get a new set of flush cutters soon. And this one I'll take off in 2 bits. One side of it. I'll get the other side of it. Yeah, if you're worried ever when you're using flush cutters or anything, something's going to grab your hand, you know, use your hand, the full spectrum of hand, to make sure stuff hits your hand and that goes flying up into the ear and into your eye. Okay. So if we look at the back of the connector here, 7. So, and a gap of 2. So that's our giveaway. The fact that one lone pin on this side, no pin, pin, pin. So that's 7. So RGB. 5 volts, sync, and audio. So what we have to remember is in our cable basically is designed for a Mega Drive 2. So it uses stereo, so that's pin 8 and pin 9. So 8 is SL, stereo left, stereo right. So even though this one 6 has audio, there's no mono line in our cable. So if we were using a Master System cable or a cable specific to this system, yeah, we'd be connecting here. But because we're not, we've actually got a mono signal going into a stereo cable, so that means we've got to bridge these 2 pins. Connect a wire to one of them and bridge it across to the other. No big deal. So we've got red, green, and blue. 5 volts and sync. So, and considering we're not using this pin, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the sync on first, because that's the center one. It's the hardest. Okay, so I'm pulling 5 volts off this capacitor over here. We have our ground wire just in here. Going to the ground of our DIN. Audio is going around to pin 15 on the VDP. I've just kind of stuck it down there. We have extra wire for once I go for the full install. I can kind of tidy it up some. But this should be good for testing. So, yeah, that's what we're going to do next. We're going to test this and our other board that we just finished. Okay, so this is the Sonic one. Yeah, this isn't working great in the sense that, yeah, I didn't connect the audio right. You can see these 2 pins here are not occupied by anything. So what do? Do I tear all this apart? No, I just simply come in here and try and snip the black wire. And what I'll do is I'll just desolder that. So yeah, we're using the Genesis 2 cable, so we need to connect these because to L and R, because this is mono, and there is no mono in a Genesis 2 cable. Even though there's a pin for it, there's no wire actually connected to that. Let's pull this IC. Hopefully I haven't fried it. Probably fried it. That is a rookie mistake. Fingers crossed. It's a memory controller, and I have a spare one, but I just don't like the idea of having to desolder a chip just because of my dumbass mistake. Okay, we'll try that. Hopefully it works. I have my doubts. If that was in the wrong way, then I probably put a supply voltage down the wrong rail. Not good. And before we test this one out, I think I'm going to put the low pass filter on this one again, because yeah, I can always take it off, but I just want to see what it looks like on the Alex the Kid one, because it has that nice beige background and a lot of solid colors and stuff, so it might be easy to kind of see. Come on. Did I bridge it? I just bridged it and didn't tin those pads. Yeah, that's bridged. So, yeah, we'll clean it up with alcohol and stuff. But yeah, we'll just bring them, get the CRT out now, and we'll test them out. Okay, so I have a CRT hooked up here, my little CRT. Wait, and just see if I can frame this up a little bit better, so you can see both the board and the CRT. Excuse the mess. Okay, so that'll do. Sorry for the kind of jankiness of it all. But okay, I have the CRT, and this is the one I prepared earlier kind of board, so I'm just going to flick it on. And I'll turn this off, there's no need for that. Where's the volume on this thing? So the picture's nice and bright. See that 50 Hertz. Right, so that's the one I prepared earlier. So let me go grab the two we worked on today. So first up, we're going to check the kind of test board, the fully socketed kind of Alex the Kid version. So it's got the original Sony for the RF modulator, the original video encoder, and it's got the Voultar board for the SCART. So let's hook this up and check it on the CRT. Okay, so Alex the Kid. Let's go. Seems like a really nice picture. Sweet. Let her play a bit of the demo. Again, sorry for the vertical lines. The refresh, the PAL refresh. Yeah. So my Alex the Kid test board seems like it's a go. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Alex the Kid. Not a great game. So cool. We'll try the Sonic the Hedgehog one. Okay, so this is Sonic the Hedgehog. The second one, just the regular one, the one we removed the RF modulator from. And let's go. Looks okay. Very cool. Maybe a little darker, but let's see. See what some gameplay is like. maybe not that dark. That looks pretty good. Oh yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, happy with that one. Yeah, that low pass filter is really nice as well on the CRT. Of course, you know, you could be nitpicky. It might be, once we view it on a panel, it might look a bit off. But I think that picture looks great, to be honest. I don't see anything wrong with it, so success! Okay, so I've had this one kind of burning in for a while now, but I need to reclaim this space, because I don't, as many may know, I don't have a permanent setup for my tools and my gear. So yeah, it's working good. So tomorrow we're going to drill the case. Yeah, we're going to drill the bottom case, get it ready for mounting the din. Yep, and that's us done. I think we accomplished enough today. So that's enough for the marathon. We've the kind of modding and electronics done. We just need to do the actual finish, where we kind of mount the device and mount the din rather, and just kind of polish up the cases and get them looking nice. So here you can see our mount for our din connector. I'll just pop it out there. I use like a cheap Aldi rotary tool. It's not perfect, it's very rough, but most of the connector covers it up. I had some fancier ideas for like 3D printed parts that would allow you kind of put this on the inside and have like a black kind of the same shape basically as the metal piece, that silver piece on the outside in black kind of 3D print that would kind of tidy it up. But you know what, we'll go with that. That's easy, that's doable. So this Master System kind of modding marathon began with someone I know basically requesting that I take a look at their console. This one here, the one that I kind of prepared earlier. Their complaint was that they got no audio. So my solution was to replace the RF altogether with the RGB Bypass Board. Rather than try and troubleshoot an old RF system that's kind of inconvenient for hooking up to more modern displays, I decided just to go with a bypass. So that's where it started. The case was broken, so this is a new case that I got from another unit. I gave them the best case. The din worked out okay in this one. They're not great. I mean, it's not the most attractive thing in the world. You definitely need to be careful, especially with the retro gaming cables from the UK. They're always a tight fit, I find. So yeah, when you're pulling cables out of here, you've just got to be kind of a little bit more cautious. Maybe brace it while you're pulling it out, because you will flex the plastic and stuff. Whether those cables wear in time and become a bit more manageable, I don't know. But yeah, it's leaving fingerprints at the moment because yeah, I just polished them before the shot. Then this is the one that we did on video. Slightly more kind of rugged, roughed up kind of case. You can see that I wasn't as flush square with the mounting of the din connector here. Again, I'm keen to kind of explore maybe different placements for here of these. Over here maybe might be a better idea, because you know, you have a curve here that might offer more support, especially if like the cable's hard to get in and out of there. Yeah, and then of course the ugly duckling is our test system, the one that's fully socketed. It retains its RF out, and it also has the mini din, the same as the others, the din 9. So yeah, Master System's been a fun system to work on. Much like the Mega Drive, in my opinion, it's a very robust system. It can take a lot of punishment. It's got a nice set of chips in there. It's easy to understand, easy to work with. Some of the temperatures you have to keep down, just because I think the PCBs themselves aren't great. They can't really take heat cycling and a lot of punishment. So you want to keep down to like 330 degrees on your desoldering and soldering irons. Hot air worked out fine with them. Yeah, they're quite nice. Now with these we've just done, with this one in particular, because this is going back to its owner, we've only done the RGB SCART modification, the RGB Bypass. I asked if they wanted a region switch, if they wanted any other work done on the console, and they were happy enough just to have a PAL unit with RGB SCART. So that'll be going out hopefully tomorrow. My own Sonic one, I probably will do some more mods on that. I'm looking into doing the definitely the region switch, but I'm looking into doing maybe swapping out the crystal for an NTSC one. I'll see how, you know, if that has a negative impact or not, whether I'll do that or whether I'll have like a dual oscillator set up for it. Seems a bit overkill. 90% of the library for Master System is PAL exclusive, or not 90%, but definitely the majority of it. And if they're not exclusive to PAL regions, then there's a PAL version of them. So I don't really see a huge advantage in having a you know, the dual oscillator set up and kind of, whereas a Mega Drive you would, because there's a lot of Japanese and US titles that you'd like to play. So eventually I will have a look at that. This will just be handy in the future for testing out other consoles as they come in. Even if they don't use, even if they're not a Master System, if they use a Zilog or, you know, the ubiquitous kind of Sony video encoder chip that's on these ones, the CX something something something, I should know the name of it by now. Yeah, I can test them out in this system. But yeah, it'll be good to have, be good to keep around. I have the case back on it for now. More than likely, you know, there's no point in even screwing the case onto this one, because this top piece is going to be coming off as I swap chips in and out. So again, I've had some trouble capturing footage, as you'll see in my Saturn Satiator video that should be coming up on the channel very soon. I've had some trouble capturing footage with the new capture card. It's an Elgato 4K. The HD60 Pro that I had before that, the small kind of USB 3 one, was far from perfect, but yeah, it's nearly impossible now. It's such a pain to capture you know, 480i or 480p or 240p with the 4K 60 Pro capture card. So I'm looking at an alternative to that. So hence pointing the camera at the CRT this time around. So I have to thank SLR Mod Shop UK, because he shared some wiring diagrams with me that proved very, very useful in kind of doing the RGB bypasses on these consoles. Also SMS Power, you know, it's a great place for schematics, for service manuals, things like that, for getting all the kind of documentation and pinouts of the different chips. So that was kind of, you know, a great resource. Check out SMS Power. It's always a great place when you're kind of going for Game Gear or any kind of Sega stuff. Voultar again, lovely boards, easy to work with, nice little boards to use. I still have a couple left over that I might even try doing a small bypass on a Mega Drive or two. We'll see. So guys, it's kind of disappointing. No direct capture from the consoles this time around. We'll have to settle for the CRT. I like to feature direct capture. But you know what, I'll iron out the kinks and I'll come up with a solution. I'll start exploring the problem and come up with a solution fairly soon. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll chat to you all again